Namaste, my dear fellow traveler, dear seekers of truth. We are reading great books that are helpful in our spiritual journey. Yesterday I have left. He writes gospel, freedom laws, etc. Today I am continuing and counts your help and seriousness and counts on your help and seriousness. He pulls you out of your social morass in order to keep together the many little great persons, in order not to lose your confidence. The truly great man has to sacrifice piece after piece of his greatness, which he was able to attain only in the deepest intellectual loneliness, far from you and your everyday noise, and yet in close contact with your life. In order to be able to lead you, he has to tolerate your transforming him into an inaccessible God. You would have no confidence in him if he had remained the simple man that he was, a man who say can love a woman even though he has no marriage certificate. In his way, you yourself produce a new master, promoted to the role of new master. A great man loses his greatness because this greatness consisted in his straightforwardness, simplicity, courage, and real contact with life. The little great persons who deprived their greatness from the great men assume the high post of finance, diplomacy, government, sciences, and arts, and you remain where you were in the morass. You continue to go in rags for the sake of the socialist future or the third reach. You continue to live in dirt house with straw roofs, the walls of which are covered with manure. But you are proud of your palace of culture. You are satisfied with the illusion that you govern until the next war and the downfall of the new masters. In distant nations, little men have industriously studied your cravings for being anybody's slave and has and have thus learned how with little intellectual effort one can become a little great man. These little great men come from your ranks, not from palaces and mansions. They have hungered and suffered like you. They shorten the process of changing masters. They have learned that 100 years of hard intellectual work on your freedom, of personal sacrifice for your happiness, even of sacrificing life for your freedom, was much too high a, a price for your new enslavement. What really great thinkers for freedom has elaborated and has suffered in 100 years would be destroyed in less than 5 years. The little men from your ranks then shortened the process. They did it more openly and more brutally. More than that, they tell you in so many words that you and your life, your family and your children amount to nothing, that you are stupid and subservient, that one can do with you what one pleases. They do not promise you personal freedom, but national freedom. They do not promise you human self confidence, but respect for the state. Not personal greatness, but national greatness. Since personal freedom and personal greatnesses are nothing to you but vague concepts, while national freedom and the interest of the state make your mouth water like a bone that of a dog. You loudly acclaim them. None of these little men pays the price for genuine freedom, as did Jesus, Karl Marx, or Lincoln. They do not love you, they despise you, since you despises yourself. Little man, they know you well, far better than a Rockefeller or the Tories know you. They know your worst weaknesses in a way in which only you should know them. They have sacrificed you to a symbol and you carry them to power over yourself. Your masters have been ele- elevated by you yourself and are nurtured by you in spite of the fact, or rather because of the fact, that they dropped all marks. Indeed, they told you in so many words, you are an inferior being without any responsibility, and you are going to remain so. And you call them saviors, new liberators, and yell, hail, hail, and vina, viva, viva. This is this is why I am afraid of you, little man, deadly afraid. For on for on you depends the fate of humanity. I am afraid of you because there is nothing you flee as much from as yourself. You are sick, very sick, little man. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to rid yourself of this sickness. You would have long since taken off your oppressors had you not tolerated oppression and often actively supported it. No police force in the world would be powerful enough to suppress you if you had only a mite of self-respect in practical, everyday living. If you knew deep down that without you, life would not go on for even an hour. Did your liberator tell you that? No. He called you the proletarian of the world. What he did not tell you that you and only you are responsible for your life. Instead of being responsible for the honor of the fatherland, you must come to realize that you made your little men your own oppressors, and that you made martyrs out of your truly great men, that you crucified and murdered them and let them starve, that you did not give a thought to them and their laborers for you, that you have no idea to whom you owe whatever fulf- fulfillments there are in your life. You say, before I trust you, I want to know your philosophy of life. When you hear my philosophy of life, you will run to you to your district attorney or to the Committee Against Un-American Activities or to the FBI, the GPU, or the Yellow Press, or the Ku Klux Klan of the leaders of the proletarian of the world. Or finally, you will simply run, I am not a red or a black or a white or a yellow. I am not a Christian or a Jew or a Mohammedan or a Mormon, polygamist, homosexual, anarchist, or boxer. I embrace my wife because I love her and desire her, and not because I happen to have a marriage certificate or because I am sexually starved. I do not beat children. I do not fish, and and do not shoot deer or rabbits, but I am a good shot and like to hit the bull's eye. I do not play bridge and do not give parties in order to spread my theories. If my teachings are correct, they will spread by themselves. I do not submit my work to any health official unless he has mastered it better than I have, and I determine who has mastered the knowledge and the intricacies of my discovery. I strictly observe every law when it makes sense, when it makes sense, but I fight it when it is obsolete or senseless. Don't run to, to the district attorney, little man, for, for he does the same if he is a decent individual. I want children and adolescents to experience their bo- bodily happiness in love and to enjoy it without danger. I do not believe that in order to be religious in the good and genuine sense of word, one has to ruin one's love life and has to become rigid and shrunken in body and soul. I know that what you call God actually exists, but in a different way from what you think, as the primal cosmic energy in the universe, as your love in your body, as your honesty and your feeling of nature in you and around you. I would show the door to anybody who, under whatever films, flimsy pretext, were to were to try to interfere with my medical and educational work with patient or child. In any open court, I would ask him some very simple and clear questions, which he could not answer without being ashamed ever after. For I am a working man who knows what a man really is inside, who knows that he amounts to something, and who wants work to govern the world and not opinions about work. I have my own opinion, and I can distinguish a lie from the truth, which every hour of the day I use like a tool, and which after use I keep clean. I am very deeply afraid of you, little man. That's not that's that has not always been so. I myself was a little man among millions of little men. Then I became a natural scientist and a psychiatrist, and I learned to see how very sick you are and how dangerous you are in your sickness. I learned to see the fact that it is your own emotional sickness and not an external power, which every hour and every minute surpasses you, even though there may be no external pressure. You would you would have overcome the tyrants long ago had you been alive inside and healthy. Your oppressors come from your own ranks, as in the past they came from the upper strata of society. They are even littler than you are, little men, for it takes a good dose of littleness to know your misery from experience and then to use this knowledge to suppress your still better, still harder. You have no sense organ for the truly great man, his way of being, his suffering, his longing, his wrangling, his fight for you are aligned to you. You cannot understand that there are men and women who are incapable of surpassing or incapable of suppressing or exploiting you, and who really want you to be free, real, and honest. You do not like these men and women, for they are aligned to your being. They are simple and straight. To them, truth is what tactics is to you. They look through you, not with dis- derision, but pained at the fate of humans. What you feel looked through the sense danger, you acclaim them only little men, when many other little men tell you that these great men are great. You are afraid of the great man, of his closeness to life and his love for life. The great man loves you simply as a living animal, as a living being. He does not want to see you suffer as you have suffered for thousands of years. He does not want to hear you babble as you have babbled for thousands of years. He does not want to see you as the beast of burden, because he loves life and would like to see it free from suffering and ignominy. You drive really great men to the point where they despise you, were pained by you and your pet pettinesses. They withdraw, where they avoid you, and worst of all, begin to pity you. If you little man happen to be a psychiatrist, say a Lombroso, you stamp the great man as the kind of criminal, or a criminal who has failed to make good, or a psychotic. For the great man, unlike you, does not see the goal of life in money, amassing money, or in the socially proper marriage of his daughters, or in a political career, or in academic titles, or the Nobel Prize. For this reason, because he is not like you call him genius or queer. He, on the other hand, is willing to state that he is no genius but simply a living being. You call him asocial because he prefers the study with his thought or the laboratory with his word. To your empty, babbling social parties, you call him crazy because he spends his money for scientific research instead of buying bonds and stocks. As you do, you presume little man in your bottomless degeneration to call the simple, straightforward man abnormal as compared with you, the prototype of normality, the homo normalis. You measure him with your petty yardsticks and find that he does not meet the demand of your normality. You cannot see, little man, that it is you who drive him, who is full of love for you and readiness to help you from social life because you have made it insufferable, be it in a tavern or in the palace, who has made him into what he seems to be after many decades of heartbreaking suffering. It is you which, with your irresponsibility, your narrowness, your false thinking, your unshakable axioms that cannot survive 10 years of social development. Just think of all the things which you swore to be correct as few years have in as few years as have elapsed between the First and the Second World War. How much of that have you honestly recognized to be erroneous? How much of it have you retracted? Absolutely nothing, little man. The truly great man thinks cautiously, but once he has gotten hold of an important idea, he thinks in long range term. It is you, little man, who makes a parry out of the great man when his thought is correct and lasting, and your thought is petty and inf- ephemeral. In making him a patih, you plant a dreadful seed of loneliness in him, not the seed of loneliness which produces great deeds, but the seed of the fear of being misunderstood and maltreated by you. For you are the people, public opinion, and social concerns. Have you, little man, ever honestly thought about the gigantic responsibility involved in this? Have you ever honestly asked yourself whether you think correctly or not from the standpoint of of long-term social happenings or of nature or of great human deeds, say of of a Jesus? No, you did not ask yourself whether your thinking was erroneous. Instead, you asked yourself what your neighbor was going to say about it, or whether your honesty might cost you money. This little man and nothing else is what you asked yourself. After thus having driven the great man into loneliness, you forget what you did to him. All you did was to utter other nonsense, to commit another little mean, meanness, to administer another deep hurt. You forget. But it is of the nature of the great man not to forget, but also not to take revenge, but instead to try to understand why you act so sadly. I I know that this also is aligned to your thinking and feeling. But believe me, if you inflict pain 100, 1,000, a million times, if you inflict wounds that cannot heal, even though the next moment you no longer know what you did, the great man suffers of your misdeeds in your place. Not because these misdeeds are great, but because they are pretty. He would like to know what moves you to the things like these, thus to smear your marital partner because he or she has dis- disappointed you, to torture your child because he does not please ambitious neighbor, to look with scorn on the kind person and to exploit him, to take where you are given and to give where it is demanded of you, but never to give where you are given with love, to give another kick to the fellow who is down or about to go down, to lie where the truth is required, and always to persecute truth instead of the lie. You are always on the side of the per- prosecutors, little man, in order to gain your favor, little man, in order to gain your useless friendship. The great man would have to adjust himself to you, would have to talk the way you do, would would have to adorn himself with your virtues, but if he had your virtues, your language, and your friendship, he would no longer be great and true and simple. The proof your friendship who talked the way you wanted them to talk have never been great men. You do not believe that your friend could achieve something great secretly. You despise yourself even when, or par- particularly when, you make the greatest display of your dignity. And since you despise yourself, you cannot respect him who is your friend. You cannot believe that somebody who said who sat at the same table with you, or lived in the same house with you would achieve anything great. In your proximity, little man, it is difficult to think. One can only think about you, not with, not with you. Thank you, friends. Enough for today.